Happy New Year!
새해 복 많이 받으세요.
恭喜发财！
恭喜發財，新年快樂，身體健康。Wait, there's more.
Before we get started on today's episode, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded, the land of the Darug people. We would like to acknowledge and pay respects to our elders past and present and the next generation coming through. Now, onto today's episode. Welcome to the Level Asian Podcast, our Lunar New Year special. In this episode, we're joined by Steph, aka Lucky Dragon Supper Club. If you don't already know who Steph is, she's a whiz in the kitchen and she's busy creating content to show you how to cook good, eat good, and put on a spectacular spread. We chat to Steph about her mixed upbringing and also how she went from graduating with a music degree to diving into tech. Steph gives us some insight into the future of Lucky Dragon Supper Club and the exciting content that we can look forward to seeing this year. Enjoy the episode.
You're supposed to have the whole fish for the Lunar New Year, and I've just butchered it. If you want to steam a fish and your vessel isn't big enough, section it off so it steams all together. And when I plate it up, I will do a little construction with the decorations. You won't even know, babe. Curly they are now. Some of them are. This one's pretty curly.
Welcome to the Level Asian Podcast, Lunar New Year edition. We've got Steph here with us.
Hi.
And Ken, Noel, and myself, Vivian. And also behind the camera, we have Mish and Carlos. And today we're going to be discussing everything to do with Lunar New Year, having a cute little mukbang together. Thank you to Steph, who's opened up her amazing house to us and cooked up so many great dishes, which you would have seen. Let's get into it. I think we're going to talk about all of our dishes first and what it symbolizes as well. Especially with Lunar New Year, we know a lot of different cultures celebrate it, but each culture has their own special meanings behind each celebration, why we eat certain foods, and I guess what traditions happen around that too. Each family is different, but we're going to be sharing from our own experiences. Do you want to start, Ken?
Sure. So, why do we do this? So the chicken on the other side of the table. This is actually one of my mum's recipes. I would say it's probably not as traditional. In Chinese, it's called bai qie ji, which is white cut chicken. I think people are looking at it going, it's not white, it's yellow. And that's because it's corn-fed and it's a bit more organic, I guess, bit higher end in terms of chicken. But the idea is like it's a poached chicken. It's a bit like for anyone who eats like Hainanese, chicken rice, like a bit like that. So there's a dipping sauce that comes with it as well, which is her own specialty. So yeah, we'll get to try it. But we always have this during Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. It's always like the first one on the table because it's a room temperature dish, so you don't need to heat it up or anything like that. You actually have to, after you poach and braise it, it's got to actually be brought down to room temperature, so you can't eat it hot because it'll
fall apart.
Yeah, it'll fall apart, and also the meat's not as bouncy, it's not as so the texture is not as good, the mouthfeel. So yeah, that's basically what we do. Obviously not on the table yet, but eventually there's also Tang, which is a mochi ball with different fillings that we eat. For Lunar New Year, and I know a lot of Asians eat it as well, so we'll talk about that in a sec when we get there.
And talk about your fruit?
Oh yes, and then fruit. Well, fruit is like, same as dessert, right? So I think oranges, tangerines, mandarins, anything that's circular, I think there's a thing with, particularly Chinese, when it comes to things that are round. And so during Lunar New Year, there's always an importance placed on fruits that are round. Because, in Chinese, the word of like Yuan, like togetherness, being full, sort of family coming together, I think that's really important. So a lot of the food is very symbolic. And so, orange is obviously being a big part of that as well. It's probably why Chinese restaurants all do oranges just by default, because it's like, you know, you do it not just Lunar Year, but just year round as well. So that's the reason why we've also got oranges.
Do you want to also touch on your cultural background?
So I am from the mainland, Fujian, China, which is Hokkien, as a lot of people know. So, you know, the cultures that we have are quite different to probably some of the stuff that people have seen that are probably a bit more Cantonese. But I think there's commonalities, obviously, like with the Tang Yuan. I think a lot of Chinese eat that as well. But yeah, that's where my family's from. My family's from the western part of it. It's a small city called Longyan. And if anyone's seen like Hakka people, earthen buildings on the foothills of the mountains, you know, the main county, the main city around that area is called Longyan. That's where we're from.
Right. Steph, do you want to talk about your background and then what dishes you have?
Yeah, so I've got 2 dishes on the table. So my mum is Chinese. She was born in Shanghai, but I've got my grandparents were actually born in Guangzhou. My grandfather's from a region called Sunda. You know, Taste of Sunda, the restaurant?
Oh,
Yeah,
so like the foodie capital of...
Yeah.
Damn,
Yeah,
alright.
he's from there, yeah. It's in the blood. Anyway, so most of the food I ate growing up was a blend of Shanghai/Canton style cooking. What I've got on the table today, I've got a whole fish, a whole steamed fish, or ting ting yu, which is meant to symbolize wholeness, because that's the whole animal, the whole fish. But also there's a saying, ni ni yao yu, which means every year have surplus. So you eat this, so you have continuous surplus, continuous abundance. And yeah, you typically have a whole fish at any celebratory occasion, weddings, birthdays, New Year. And the other dish I have is also one of those dishes. It's Yuan, which is longevity noodles. You use a specific type of dried egg noodles. They are the supreme noodle, in my opinion. I don't know about
I think so, I agree.
Yeah. These noodles are the noodles you find on the bottom of like a lobster or crab dish you get at a Chinese restaurant. And the idea is to eat this for long life. And when you cook it, you're not supposed to break the noodles, because if you're breaking the noodles, it symbolizes, you know, chopping up your life. When you eat it, you're supposed to slurp it all up in one mouthful, so you don't break the noodles. And yeah, whenever I celebrated Chinese New Year, normally I'd go back to Shanghai with my family, and it'd be a mixture of things. Like normally on the table at first, there would be a whole bunch of cold dishes, and then my uncle, the man, is doing all the cooking. All of us would be sitting around the table, and he's just my uncle just coming out dish after dish. And one of the most fond memories I have actually is eating his spring rolls, or tungun. His spring rolls were on some other planet, because they'd be crisp and the center would be puffy, and oh my god, the texture, and I don't know, like I haven't been able to replicate it. The flavor's there, but like the texture, the feeling, I don't think he overfills it. And I just dip it in black vinegar. I think that's one of my fondest memories. And yeah, at home, like there's a whole bunch of other things we eat at home. One of the things that's like a blend of Shanghainese and Cantonese is, I don't know the name of the dish, but it is a salted pork soup, which is made with like lap yok, which like the cured pork belly. It's got cabbage, it's got bamboo and fancy with the noodles, but Cantonese twist is my grandfather actually made his own fish balls or meatballs.
Handmade.
Handmade, and he put them in the soup.
Wow.
So that's something that my mum has continued to. I love this dish so much. I love soup, actually. There's a whole bunch of other things like halfu, which is like braised wheat gluten. Have you had that before?
Yeah, with like black fungus.
Yeah.
And
peanuts. Yeah, peanuts and
Yep.
like the stringy bamboo. It's sweet. It's served cold. And when you explain to someone wheat gluten, they're like, "Oh, what gross thing is that?" It's what is it? It's like
It's like a puffy piece of gluten.
yeah, it looks like a sponge. It's not gross. Yeah, it's sponge, it's braised, it's in a beautiful, sweet, savoury sauce.
It sucks everything up.
It sucks everything up, and you can't stop at one bite. I think that's one of my favourite things. My mum also puts like tomato ketchup prawns. Like you deep fry the whole tiger prawn, and it's stir fried in garlic and ginger. I don't know if that's significant to Lunar New Year, but like...
Probably
that's
similar
always-
to the fish, right? Like the whole...
The whole animal,
Yep.
yeah. Some other things, yeah, whole chicken.
Well, I was going to say with fish, we were talking about it off camera. Like
Yeah.
people, you only eat the main body, and
Oh, yeah.
the head and the tail is like afterwards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a really superstitious thing as well. And I forgot also with the oranges specifically. In Chinese, orange is 橙, which
yeah.
is like a homonym for what was it? Tang just means wealth, like basically more. Similar to sort of what, with the fish. So again, I think like the words, they're homonyms or for certain other words in Chinese, in Mandarin. And then so Tang is all about, again, like, because Chinese people love money. Like everything's just about money, right? So it's all about wealth. So it's not rich, it's healthy, everything's prosperous.
Yeah.
So it's a massive part of the culture.
Yeah.
Michelle?
I'm Korean Australian, and in Korean, for Lunar New Year, it's called Seoll날, and we have dokguk, which is a rice cake soup. So yeah, you've got your rice cake, you've got your meat, a bit of spring onions and carrot, and it basically means when you have one bowl, you gain 1 year. And in Korea, you do a +1 to your actual original age. So if you're like 25, you're actually 26. But I believe they got rid of that. So yeah, you get a year back now. So you're younger.
Nice. And then do you have any other traditions around celebrating Lunar New Year with Korean culture?
Yeah, so definitely like the families all come together because that's like the most important part. Family gathering, and yeah, it's just a way for people to bond together.
Do you have a fond memory of Lunar New Year?
When I was in Korea, when I was young to go visit, we did sarna, so we do like chere. So we get all these like different foods to like, we bring it together. And then yeah, all our families come together to celebrate. Yeah, there's a lot of cooking involved.
Yeah.
I think it's like a big thing, like families just coming together. It's like Christmas for
Yeah.
Asians,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It's the biggest deal.
It's the big deal, and I remember I used to be really dumb because like I love traveling, and so I'd book my flights overseas because it was the cheapest time, because school holidays would finish here in Australia around Australia Day, and Chinese New Year always follows off the back of school being back, right? So end of January, early February. And so I'd be like off somewhere gallivanting, and my mum would lose it because she's like, you have to be at home.
Yeah.
And so I did this like literally 3 years in a row because I never learned my lesson. And now like being older, I realize that's like a super important thing for like family to be together. So there's a massive emphasis on everyone has to be here. Like, and so that's when people see what they call the big migration in China during this time. COVID was, anyway, we won't go into that. But people would be working in cities, and then they would travel all the way back to their, what we call like your old home, which is like your village.
The city be empty.
Yeah, cities would be empty,
Yeah.
Villages would be full.
Yeah.
And they have time off during that.
Yeah, it's like a big, I think like 2 week, 10 days thing, and it's just about coming together. There's no other reason other than to like be together, basically. Yeah.
Awesome. It's me, Carlos, behind the scenes person for Steph. So I'm actually Filipino and Torres Strait Islander. So I'd actually like to, on behalf of everyone, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're on, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. So on the Filipino side, so in the Philippines, we don't actually nationally celebrate Lunar New Year. But what has happened is it's, I guess, very well respected in a lot of households because of the Chinese influence in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of Chinese Filipinos and a lot of traditional Filipino dishes that have become their own take. Things like longevity noodles, etc. And pancit bihon, which is my favourite rice noodle dish. It's a very Filipino take on the Chinese culture. And so for me, by extension, my dish is Steph's dish. But what I really love, I suppose, being with Steph, it's learning about sort of her culture. It's being able to go to her house and celebrate Lunar New Year, and it's a very fond memory that I have. I'm super hungry just listening to you guys, and I can't wait to hear more.
We'll eat soon.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly go before Noel. So I'm from Fujian, so similar to Ken. And then I think we would speak a different dialect though.
Yep.
So they're a little bit separate, but kind of the same. I have 2 dishes here, I think. So one of them is spring rolls. I don't actually know the full meaning behind each dish, like the longevity noodles and the fish. But with the spring rolls, my mum's grown up eating these all the time. So context is she grew up in Hong Kong. So we've got a lot of Cantonese and Chinese influence in our household. And so with the spring rolls, with Fuzhou, there's a lot of street food. We were just talking about it off camera. And with the spring roll wrappers, what you usually do is you go out on the street after you've made all of the filling stuff. You go downstairs, there's always someone with a cart and they just make fresh pancake or spring roll wrappers for you. Bring it home in a plastic bag and it's all nice and fluffy. Just lay it out on the table and everything is ready and you just wrap your own.
Nice.
My mum's made this one vegetarian friendly for those who, I think everyone can.
So that's mock meat, is that?
Yes, so this is
Oh,
mock
I thought
meat.
that was spam.
I was like,
Yeah, so it's usually spam or just meat, and she's added egg, bean sprouts, noodles, and a lot of ginger to make it not too not too cold because
Too
the
cold,
beans
yeah.
are not. Yeah. And then we've got so this one is called in Fuzhouhua it's binu. It's pretty much a dumpling / wonton, but the meat is wrapped in a wrapper that is also made of meat. So it's meat wrapped in meat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
This does not look like meat.
So I've got a clip of my mum making it last night, but they're these dried paper-like sheets and she lays them out on a tray and sprays them with water so they go a little bit soft. And then she puts the filling in and she just squeezes it closed and then she steams it afterwards and then makes a clear soup.
is it like lard or is it like meat?
I think it's pork and just a little bit of cabbage inside.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't get the other ones, but they're just Yuan, which is fish ball. But those fish balls are also traditional to Fuzhou, which is the outside is also meat and fish, and then the inside is meat. Wow. So I think the story goes, it was like this king who wanted something different from his chef. And so the chef got really annoyed and he chopped everything up and took his anger out on the fish and minced it. And he was like, oh, this actually tastes really good. And he just turned it into a dish. So yeah, that's what we normally have for Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year in this context. And then my dad will usually bring prawns and lobster noodles and all that jazz. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I guess we also celebrate with red pockets, which is a favourite. Noel?
I didn't bring anything, so my bad. But I'm here for the food. My background is Burmese-Australian. In Burma, there's a lot of different ethnic groups within Burma itself, and because it's such a long country, there's a lot of different influences from all the neighbouring countries. So food-wise, there's probably some similarities, but I'm not super familiar with the Chinese, influence in Burma. But my family is more closer towards the Thai side, so we don't really celebrate Lunar New Year. I know some parts of Burma do, and some communities do. But I guess the main Lunar New Year celebration, or New Year celebration in Burma is like a water festival, and that's in
Oh, is that like Songkran, like the Thai?
Yeah, it's a different,
Thai
similar
New
version.
Year.
Yeah.
So do you guys follow the same calendar as the
It's a
Thai?
similar calendar. And basically, it's seasonal, so it marks like the end of the dry season.
Ah.
So, and it's like hot as hell there. So just basically just dousing each other in water, and it's supposed to kind of cleanse all the bad juju from the previous year. and I guess good fortune and all that too. So yeah, that's my.
And then your family is from what part of Burma?
They're from Waiko, which is like one of the smaller states in Burma, and it shares the border with the Thai, with the west side of Thai. So it's in East Burma.
East Burma.
Yeah.
I guess what would be helpful is, can you just pass me my phone?
Actually, before we do that, we should mention the alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we decided, I don't think this was planned. So we went downstairs to our friendly neighborhood BWS, who seems to stock the one and only guojiao, which is basically so China has several what they call and this is such a Asian thing, like legendary wines or spirits. I don't know too much about it, but what I do know is that these are highly distilled. Anyone who's had baijiu before knows how strong these things are. I probably say the closest thing, in my opinion, as a reference point is a bit like whiskey, because you feel the burn when it goes down, it warms your stomach. And you're supposed to sip on it, I used to take shots and I used to get told off all the time. So you're supposed to sip on it and enjoy the taste. This one is from Sichuan, which is obviously the sort of the northwest part of China as well. So this is a very, I think this was $200, this bottle.
Was it?
Yes, it was. So very high quality.
Those red pockets will make up for it.
Yeah, so you get your RI through red pockets.
Expense.
So obviously some of us are going to try it, for those of us to drink, but yes, I know Carlos and I are going to have a good time as well.
For sure. I was reading up about had something like over 120 flavour profiles. So it's
Really?
Super complex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some liquor.
Well, let's see.
You can smell it, like it smells.
I love the smell. I probably like the smell more than the taste sometimes.
This smells different to the ones that I've had at home.
Yeah.
In the white bottle.
Mhm.
This one smells like bananas and flowers and frangipanis
And I find Chinese don't do a very good job with marketing. Like, look at this packaging,
Yeah.
like it's terrible. And like all of the different like multi and some of the Wuliangye and stuff, have you seen them? They're the ugliest bottles.
They're so ugly.
They're getting better, but the traditional bottles, some of them look like medicine bottles.
Yeah.
They're like these white, not translucent, just white.
It looks like clay, like something that clay.
Yeah, look,
would
it's a
come
clay
in.
jar, literally. So,
Yeah.
but they taste great. So.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the design of the bottle, and it's flat on one side. Is it designed to be?
You can like lay it down on the table.
I don't know why they've done it this way, but they all got really interesting shapes. But I'm sure when we put up some photos of in post-production, like of the other bottles, you'll see they're all weird shapes. They're all a little bit different as well. I would personally love to go out and explore some of the breweries that do it out there. They're insane. I've seen some of the photos, and Multai, which is probably the most famous one that everyone knows, is in a place called Guizhou, which is a province. It's like the poorest in China, yet they make the best baijiu. And I think it's like Chinese baijiu recently has been much more held in high regard than it has been in previous years. So I think I remember like 10 years ago, you could get a bottle of baijiu for like $50, $60. Like it was cheap. Now you can't even find it. It's a bit like Japanese whiskey. And I think like this is 200, but really high end, like high quality baijiu, whatever the grade is, it's like goes into the 1,000, I think possibly. So anyway, it's a bit of stuff there for the alcohols.
What's the percentage of alcohol in that?
I think it's on the box, but I think it was like 50 or 57%. So it was like.
So that's why you don't take a shot.
That's why you don't take a shot. That's why you sip.
You're supposed. We don't have any like little nips. You're supposed to have it in a tiny little glass. It's like this big. If anything, it's probably 15 mils at a time. So I've got these from my party days. Like these. Are
The Mexican shot glass.
Yeah, embarrassing. I think these are 60 mls or something. These are big, juicy ones. So yeah.
And you don't want to shot it because
Burns.
this is expensive and you're not enjoying it.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta enjoy it,
so you should sip it and taste it because it does have a. It's not like I think some people drink like spirits because they just want to get shit faced, but yeah, you're actually supposed to taste this.
Really enjoy it.
Yeah, you're supposed to enjoy it. Yeah.
Neat.
Yes.
We've also got a few submissions on our Instagram of what other people celebrate, and we can share that in our video too. You got a heap of submissions too.
Oh, I got heaps.
So I'm just going to read a bunch out and then we can start eating because I know everybody's hungry. Okay, so a lot of people have said that they have hot pot or steamboat with a family.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
With my friends that don't celebrate Lunar New Year, I usually do something to include them, and the easiest option for me is hot pots. I don't have to cook anything. I just buy everything here, put it on the table.
Feels interactive.
Feels interactive. Some people have never had hot pot before, and you could just see the like, oh my god, what do I do now? I've got to make my dipping sauce, and you can get creative with your dipping sauces, dipping sauce stations. And it's like the least work and the most. For me, it's one of my favorite things to eat. Hot pot.
And then the next one is lo hei, which is it's a dish of noodles with sometimes it's got fish in it, and it's also got different veggies. And what everyone does is they just grab their chopsticks and toss.
Prosperity toss, is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
And then while they're saying it, they say sayings that bring you good fortune, good luck, get away with the evil spirits. It's a very choral, is that the word? It's like a chorus kind of thing.
Have you done it before?
No, I've never done it.
I've never done it. I feel like it's very popular in Malaysia and Singapore.
Yeah. Okay. And then a lot of people eat seafood. That's a big thing. A lot of people spend time with family, so it's a big family thing, like we said. And then calling relatives overseas as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And you scream into the phone.
Yeah, you have to scream.
Because it's like you can't hear them.
Yeah.
But you can't hear them because there's a lot of people talking. Because the connection's bad.
Well, I just think that like there's this thing with like older Asians, like the parents and the grandparents. They just think that you've got to scream so they can hear more clearly.
Yeah.
There's no logic to it
Yeah.
whatsoever.
That's so true.
Yeah. But I have to remember, like, this was maybe in the 90s before we had like proper internet and stuff, and you could just like WeChat call, video call.
Oh yeah, it was SIM card. My mum would buy SIM cards.
SIM cards, or like, I don't know if anyone used to have this, like, I'm showing my age now, but you buy the actual international phone calling credit.
Oh, okay.
Viv's too young for this, probably. You go to the supermarket and you go to the counter where you buy cigarettes, and they give you these cards, and it had like $50 credit on it. And and then you scratch it off, and it had
There's a number.
and then you call it, and it's like a redirect, and then they go, I'll put in the number with this code, and then as you're like talking on the phone to your relatives, it's like telling you how much money's left.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So that's probably maybe the reason why people used to like scream into it, because the connections weren't great.
Right, yeah.
And then during Lunar New Year, everyone's calling. So it's
yeah.
always like used to get cut off and stuff like that. So yeah.
Lol. Okay. Some people go to the temple. Personally, with my family, because my parents are very Buddhist, when we do a big lay of food, they give a lot of the offerings to all of our shrines at home. And then after that, and they've done little wine glasses as well, then we can eat it. So it's been blessed first. A lot of the time, a lot of our food and our fruit at home can't be eaten until Dad's put it in front of all of our shrines.
Interesting.
So people have said that they go to the temple first. We normally go to Wollongong Temple, Nantian, but there's other temples that people can go to, like in Cabra.
Yeah, Bonnerig's got a big one. Yep.
We've got a lot of Viet submissions as well. I don't know how to pronounce this.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the name of it? How would you describe the dish? What is it? Oh, can I have a look? It looks like a broth with like meatballs on top, and the meat is
it's
loose.
some sort of paste, right?
Yeah, it's really loose. There's a lot of greens. It looks like a really clear soup.
Put it up on the screen.
Yeah,
We'll pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, quite a few. I had quite a few Vietnamese responses in my poll, like Kit Bo, I think that's what it's called. Sorry, it is a braised beef dish with quail eggs.
This one.
Oh, this one.
This one. We'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, that one.
That was good.
Another popular response was the Vietnamese sticky rice, which I have here and I have not prepared it. It's called ban tet. It's glutinous sticky rice, very similar to zong zi, very similar. The filling, you can either have like a sweet banana filling or pork belly, which is encased with mung bean. And everyone in the DMs is like, you need to cut it up and steam it, cut it up, fry it so it becomes nice and crispy. That was also something really popular. Bitter melon soup. There is a play on words for the bitter melon soup. I can actually send you the screenshot. I can put it up here. It's meant to symbolize, when you have it, you get rid of anything you want.
Like a detox?
Oh, it's like you're welcoming wealth and you're like getting rid of the chances of you get like, I don't want to butcher it, but like I'll send over the screenshot as well.
We also had homemade dumplings. A lot of people eat dumplings. What's the meaning behind dumplings again? It's like
It's money bag.
Yeah, money bag.
Yeah, it looks like if anyone's seen what Chinese currency used to look like, these little gold ringots, and they used to have like their little boat shaped and have a coin sitting in the middle.
Yep.
That's what they look like.
And then we've got glass noodles, roasted pork and duck. A lot of times Asian families will get, roasted pork from the Asian butcher and duck. And then, again, a lot of people saying a lot of family gatherings, either at their grandparents' houses or just at their own house and everyone comes. We had a unique submission where someone said they have a New Year Eve family dinner gathering while they play bingo after dinner, which is kind of cute.
Bingo.
Cute!
Yeah.
Actually, I had quite a few people saying they play cards with their family or
mahjong.
blackjack. It's just a time,
Yeah.
With their red pocket money?
Yep.
With their pocket money.
We had someone from, they said Koreans celebrate Lunar New Year with a rice cake porridge, which is the same one that Michelle shared. People go overseas if they have a blended relationship or a family as well. And we have a few submissions with questions around Lunar New Year, but we can cover that once we start eating. Do you want to share yours, Steph?
Yeah, the other Vietnamese one was ba la lot, which is the grilled beef with the pita leaf. Apparently pita leaf is really hard to find around here, but if you can get your hands on it, it's like creme de la creme. Turnip cake was like lobako. Turnip cake, I've had turnip cake for years.
I used to have it at Yoncha. Like,
My mum makes it for breakfast a lot of the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Your mom is bougie.
Yeah, bougie.
Like meat wrapping and then like...
Well, yeah, that's all I've grown up on.
She's special or whatever, and then a couple of people just shared what they just eat during a celebratory period. It might not have any like significance or any play on words, but things like prawn crackers, nasi lemak, rendang, what else was there? Rice cake soup, fish maw soup, fish soup.
Oh wow.
Quite a few people said lobster or lobster noodles. And some of the common things that people look forward to are like the red envelopes.
Hell yeah.
One of the funny responses was like, sea cucumber and abalone with a helping of Asian guilt. Family guilt. I was like, yes, very relatable.
Yeah.
But you power through it. Just eat your
such a hard life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Compliment the food,
For sure. Okay, I think this is a good time for us to all dig in. This episode is produced and brought to you by Social Wave. Social Wave is a strategic content marketing agency helping businesses grow revenue using video, podcasts, and SEO. Head on over to socialwave.com.au to find out more. Now back to the show. Welcome back, everyone. So we're all in a bit of a food coma right now. As you can see, we've eaten all this food, but we've got dessert. So Can, do you want to introduce what this is?
Yes, so I talked about Tang Yuan at the start, so this is Tang Yuan. So there's a few flavors. The white one here we've got is peanut flavor. Then the purple one, we've got black sesame. We've also got a big pot here, which is separate. We've added some milk to it. Viv is obviously lactose or dairy free, so she's got her own separate one. But a couple of special flavors, more modern, I guess. So these are more traditional, but the modern flavors, one is an Ovaltine flavor. I'm sure the Malaysians will love it. And then there's a brown colored one in there that's
A surprise.
it's poo-poo, but but it's a special flavor. And then we'll see if you guys can figure out what it is.
Is it sweet?
It is sweet. Yes.
Do we want to try that one first? Or is that the Ovaltine one?
No, it's the
Oh,
brown.
the brown one.
Yeah, Ovaltine's orange. Brown is this. Maybe we'll do the brown one first.
Alright, let's do the brown one.
You'll have to scoop it out. So
Does
there's
it-
one for each person.
Does it need the milky broth as well?
You can have it, but at the end of the day, you can try the broth separately.
Separately. You know what, I'm
It's
gonna-
just a milky version of this one.
I'm
so
gonna
it's
put
not
a little bit on my spoon. I smell brown sugar on the outside.
Ooh,
Oh my god, it's a boba flavor one.
maybe.
Am I right?
You're supposed to wait.
Oh, sorry.
Hang on,
I haven't tried it yet.
I haven't tried it either, so I've got no idea if it's brown sugar.
Oh, it's ginger. Oh, no, I can smell ginger from the.
Okay.
Do you guys want to try some?
Yeah, scoop one. I've not tried this, so I've got no idea what it tastes like. So anyway, ready?
Itadakimasu.
Oh,
Ooh, yum.
okay.
Egg yolk or pumpkin? What is it?
Is it egg yolk?
Salted duck egg yolk,
Fuck yeah.
brown sugar.
This is so good. It's so good. This is better than any Tang Yuan that I've had ever.
I've got goosebumps.
Get this.
Yeah. Has anyone heard of the boba brand called Tiger Sugar?
Yes.
This is Tiger Sugar Tang Yuan
Fuck.
with
That's
salted
so
duck egg yolk.
good.
It's good, eh?
It's so comforting. It's so chewy. It's not too sweet.
I had to fight Iris to take this. She's like, no, not the Tiger Sugar.
Thanks, Iris.
Thanks, Iris.
You bad bitch.
There we go. Oh wow.
It's better than I expected, actually.
I'm gonna remember that for a very long time. All right. So how many more do we have to eat? 4. Oh, 3. So
Three more types.
3 more types.
Yep. So we'll do the Ovaltine one last. So these are more traditional. Which one you guys want to do first? You want to do peanut or you want to? You already ate it.
I already took a bite.
What?
I took a bite. I
Didn't you
didn't eat
get
the whole
taught this
thing.
stuff? Like you don't eat until the elderly start eating.
We all did start eating.
All right, peanut. We'll do peanut first then. All right, so the white one, yeah.
Noel did this black sesame one already.
I like
What
both.
the hell, no?
Ooh. Look, I love how this oozes open.
Peanut's so good.
It tastes like peanut brittle.
It is basically, yeah. There's a bit of crunch in it. Do Koreans have
No.
not the sweet version?
Oh, we have duck. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is still rice based. Yeah. Okay. Did you finish the black sesame already?
No, I had a bite.
Oh.
I just wanted to make
Spat
sure
it back
that
out
it
and
was
put it
good. Yeah. Very elegant like that.
All right. We done with the peanut?
Yes.
We do black sesame.
I love black sesame.
Yep.
Black sesame is my
Guys,
favorite.
home stretch.
No, so good.
Wow, it's so big.
Oh wow.
Bit gingery. I know Asian dessert is never like overly sweet. This is a good balance.
Not too sweet. Ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
好好味啊，
好好味。
很好吃，
太好吃。
太好，炸住，咁好食。
All right, and then the Ovaltine. No.
Okay, so what do we do?
You just scoop it out and get some of the milk.
Yep.
Are you going to add it into your bowl if you still got soup? It's the same thing.
Okay.
And then you sprinkle some of the Ovaltine crack on top and then have it in one bite.
My heart is racing. Wait, is that
I have an extra.
a separate one? Is that the yolk one?
It's no, that's the Ovaltine one.
Oh, it's orange, sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then sprinkle some of that.
So how much am I supposed to put?
As much as you want. It's just Ovaltine powder. Depends how much you like.
Yeah. Come on.
More.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peace.
That's a healthy amount.
All right.
Is it just me trying this, or are you?
No.
I will try.
Steph can.
Okay.
Steph's just recovering.
I'm so damn full. I'm literally going to be speaking like this the whole time. Oh, thank you.
All right.
No,
She's got hers non-milk one. And then for these guys, bring your bowls over. All right. Eat it fast before it gets wet.
It's already.
Oh, this is different.
I feel like the skin doesn't have anywhere as much bounce as the other
Yeah, it needs
skin.
to be chewier.
Chewier. The filling,
What's in it?
Ovaltine.
No,
The Tang in. I think it's meant to be the same rice cake, but I don't know why it's orange because I can't taste the Ovaltine.
but it has less structural integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. Still good, but just different. I think I like the tiger sugar one the best.
That was the supreme.
That one's good.
Agreed.
All right. Do I do a shot now or do I look?
All right, I'm good. Let's go. Yeah. Not too bad. It's pretty good.
That is like candy.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, it's like I can taste the barrel at the end, the oakiness at the end. Shows
Yeah,
the
after
bottle.
you eat something and then have that.
Raises the palate.
Yeah. Really nice.
I feel like I just need a cigarette and I'm vomiting.
I hate this phone. Come on, beach, wake up. What the hell? That's huge!
Is that actually fall asleep?
Yeah. Well, you're living here, so
Oh yeah.
we don't get a drive.
Oh, my stomach is simmering.
Maybe just
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
it's like a hug. Do you drink much, Mish? Oh, the Korean says this. Next minute,
Cut to Michelle, like day 10.
10 soju bowl.
Cheers.
Ganbei.
Someday.
So let's talk about you, Steph.
Okay, yeah, same.
Let's wind it back to, because I know that on social media you're not super open about yourself, but
Yeah.
you are starting to put yourself out there. Let's take it back a little bit and tell us about your background, where you grew up in Sydney.
Yeah. Okay, so
And obviously we mentioned before you're also mixed as well, so maybe touch on that a little bit.
Okay. Well, hi, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for having us. We're at your place.
Oh, yeah, true. This is my podcast debut. And I've been practicing. No, I'm kidding. I thought I would be practicing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to word vomit it and see where it goes. So I grew up, born and raised in Sydney. I grew up in an area called Earlwood, which when I was growing up, no one knew where that was. But for those of you who don't know, it's like beyond inner west towards south, surrounded by Campsie, Marrickville.
Is it ethnic area?
Mostly ethnic, yeah.
It's got a strong Greek community there.
Strong
Right.
Greek, Italian, yeah. The street that I grew up in probably had 25% Asians. Like, it was like 4 or 5 Asian families in my street. So I feel like growing up I had quite a diverse, I had access to diversity, school, at home, my family. My mum is Chinese, my dad is Hungarian German. He grew up in a village, he was born in a village in Yugoslavia, so it's really difficult, like Yugoslavia is not a thing anymore. My parents met here in Sydney, and when my mum came here in the 80s, she didn't want to have kids. She actually was, because her older siblings back in China were having kids in singular, one child policy. And we're getting married. She was like, bye, I don't want that. So she came to Australia just to seek a better life for herself, and she came here with nothing but an umbrella and a handbag.
Wow.
And she reminded me that all the time. Anytime I was being a little shit, she was like, You know, I came here with nothing.
What brand was the handbag though?
I couldn't tell you. You know what? Probably not.
Wasn't
branded.
LV.
No, it wasn't branded.
Coach with a double O.
Yeah.
Cooch.
That's
Oh,
good.
boy, it's a nice Gucci bag.
Yeah.
No Gucci bag, a Gucci bag. So yeah, maybe like if we take it a little bit back before I came into the picture, my mum worked in with a lot of migrants with sewing. Like she got into working with manufacturers, making sample pieces, just really hustling around. My dad came to Australia in the late 60s or mid 60s. He was fleeing communism and poverty from the village that he was from. So him and his family migrated here. He finished his high school years here, not speaking any English. And he did a lot of jobs actually, but one of the biggest jobs that he did was he worked at Qantas. And when you work at Qantas for a really long time, you get the perks.
Yeah.
So we would travel a lot. Like
Nice.
I would travel business class to Shanghai on Jetstar prices. I thought I was that girl. I was like, yeah, business class. Sorry, don't know you. And then now as an adult, I'm like, business class. That'd be nice. That'd be really nice. To get them points, girl. I used to travel a lot and go back to China every year for Lunar New Year. That was like, and my parents made sure that I was known to have been a fortunate child growing up. Like, you know, you get to travel a lot. They're working class family.
She made it clear to you.
Yeah, they always just reminded me to be like grateful. Look, your life could be like somebody else's. Like you have access to tutoring. You went to. My parents worked really hard to send me to a private school. They reminded me of that a lot. They're like, this isn't cheap. You can't be sick. Go to school when you're sick. You know how much it costs a
Asian
day.
guilt trip, right?
Yeah, like you're not sick. I remember one time I got really sick though. I called my mum and I don't remember how I got home. I ate chicken Caesar salad and I passed out at school. Like in the library at 4 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was that bad that I was walking between bins and throwing up between each bin. Oh no, TMI, sorry. That was fine. Like I was borderline almost dead. So yeah, I'll come pick you up. Today that won't fly by. If you're sick, babes, go home. Stay at home, okay?
It was about different time.
Different time.
Pre-COVID.
Different time. The school I went to, I found that I wasn't like a minority. I found like all my friends were ethnics or Asians. All my close friends, I've got a diverse set of friends. And it wasn't until school was really diverse. University was becoming less diverse, but as soon as I hit the workforce, that's when I was like, I stand out, or like I'm not like everybody else, which is fine. Like I feel like as a westernized Asian person, you know how to navigate through spaces like that. But it wasn't until I will never forget this conversation I had with maybe he was in his 50s or 40s. He's like, hey Steph, what did you get up to on the weekend? And I go, I went to Korean barbecue. He's like, what's that? I'm like, I'm the one that stands out. You know the Korean barbecue? He's like, you cook your own food. It's like, yeah, there's kimchi and banchan and all these side dishes. Like, what's kimchi? And I was just like, okay, we have a conversation later about this. Maybe with the work budget, we should all go and have like Korean barbecue.
With the work budget.
Yeah. And because it was really foreign to a lot of people in the team. And yeah, so that's when I started to realize, oh my goodness, my experience growing up, I was in a bubble. I was really fortunate, really lucky to have a really diverse set of people around me. I did do a lot of the stereotypical Chinese things. My mum put me into Chinese school. I went to tutoring. I was a musician for a very long time. My mum pumped me into piano when I was 5. I was one of those kids that finished all my grades before I finished primary school. I was like one of those kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't put me on the piano today though, I got long nails. No. And growing up I really did not like playing music at all. It was
forced on you?
It was more like, Steph, just finish your grades. Just finish the grades so you can say it's done. I remember in year 3, I was like, oh man, if I get A+, can I get a cat? My mum like, yeah. So I got an A+, and there's no cat.
Oh, that's rough.
No. Mum, it's fine. I got like a McDonald's Happy Meal. I remember because it was at the Australian Technology Park just down here. And I remember on our drive there, we passed Waterloo McDonald's, and I just see the big M. I'm like, that's nice. I know what I'm getting if I get an A+. But yeah, back to the whole music thing. I did a lot of music. Actually, did a music degree. I don't know if a lot of people know that about me. They find that really surprising, actually, because I'm not the stereotypical muso. I don't know if you could gather, my energy is like over there, and I'm undisciplined. And as a musician, if you want to really get into it,
You also went to the conservatorium, right?
no, I didn't.
No, you did.
No, because so this is what
She
happened.
visited it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did a lot of exams there, but like when it came to finishing my grades, finishing year 12, I didn't know what I was doing with myself, but I taught music at my school in HSC. I did extended music, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to become a teacher because I feel like I can teach, and kids aren't too bad. I'll just do a music degree. But then when it came down to auditioning for the con, I also had schoolies. So I went to schoolies.
Priorities.
I went to schoolies. I don't think my mum was on my case at the time, but then when I came back, she's like, so what are you doing with yourself? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, what? How did you miss auditions for the con? Which was fine. I ended up going to UNSW for music, and I was the only cellist there, and my head was so big. Because at the con, it's really competitive. All the musos there are hardcore, top tier, practice galore, access to, the network, lots of experience, and I was the only cellist at UNSW, and so I did good. I did really good because there was nothing I wanted to compare me to. I did learn at uni though. I didn't think music was for me. I think I did it because it was good for me. I started teaching kids one-to-one, and I started teaching classes, and that's when I realised you need to be a certain temperament to be a teacher, because my teachers growing up were amazing. Especially my music teachers, they were really passionate about art, about creativity, about expression. I feel like expression in your younger ages, I think that's also why a lot of kids turn off music, because they're taught to just read a box. Stay in the box.
Rote, right? Like you're just memorizing and like playing things back.
That or like before you can start experimenting with expression, learn the syllabus, learn it how everyone else has learnt it.
Right.
Especially in classical music training. And then some people really have a hard time expressing themselves playing. It wasn't until like I was at uni until I really started being expressive and really not shy away. Like when I was younger, my mum would be like, play piano for uncle. Yeah. And I just go, or be like, no, I can't hear you, sorry, bye. I hated it so much.
It's like they put you on show as well.
They look at my daughter.
It's like a dance monkey dance situation, right?
Oh, I hope she didn't think of me like that, but but yeah, it wasn't until I started teaching kids and I was like, you know what, you have to be a certain type of person to be able to pass on that passion to the kids, right? Like you have to get them to believe in the vision that they could be a musician, or like just get them to express themselves in a certain way. And I just thought I wasn't that person deep down. And also kids drove me mad, man. Like my fuse back then was like, you talk back to me, all right, okay. And I'm kidding. But like the other part was also like talking to teachers. Like sometimes a lot of kids had, their parents could afford to get them to play whatever they want. So you didn't have to follow a syllabus. Like, oh, I want to play Hallelujah. But, what's the artist's name?
Jeff Buckley?
One of Hallelujah, that one.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley.
Jeff Buckley, yes. So I had to transcribe like something for this kid, and then for the next 12 weeks, we were just playing the same thing. It was so unproductive. I got my money every week, but I was like, hang on, this is so bleak. So then when you do a music degree, you have a couple of options. Like you could get into real pro, like become a pro musician. And doing that is a lot of maintenance, right? You have to make yourself available for every gig, all gigs, practice like crazy, enter competitions, build a profile for yourself, because that's how you kind of become recognized. And eventually, like, unfortunately, the arts in this country isn't well funded. So most people ambitions go to the US or Europe to really make it big time. And that's very extremely competitive. You could also work in an orchestra, but that's also competitive. Like, imagine being a flautist and being able to, like, there's already someone playing the flute, I think it's in SSO, and then there's like 6 other backup flautists, and you want to get in? Good luck. And everyone's like 20 years older than you? Okay, then what? And then I did that. Then I worked at a radio station, like a classical radio station. I interned there for a bit. And then after I did that for a year. That's when I was like, okay, I want to change what I'm doing completely. All my best friends are lawyers or like in corporate, and I was the kid at the party. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, I do music. They're like, oh.
You're gonna be poor for a while.
It's like, oh, okay, so like, how do you pay rent? How do, like, I live at home. I don't regret this, but I'm just going to say this out loud. A master's degree in marketing was what I thought would get me out of the arts into corporate. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to work in the big four like all my friends, because it sounds, you know, like what everyone else is doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I went to a networking event and I met my first boss, my first manager there, and she was just looking for a digital campaign person in an agency, and that was all foreign to me. Like, I had never worked in that environment before, didn't know what digital was, what media was, nothing. My exposure was just like music and ensembles and gigs and stuff like that. So I went to this networking event. I was just like, hi, I'm about to start a master's degree. I need a job. You guys, I'm intern. I did anything. And literally the next, we exchanged details, and I just reached out to her and I said, hey, really appreciated meeting up with you. Please let me know if there are any opportunities. Literally the next day, she was like, are you free for coffee tomorrow?
Huh.
And I met up with her. And I'll never forget, I was like so nervous. I'm like, what the hell is she going to talk to me about? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, I actually have an opening. Like, I didn't have to apply for this job anyway. I just met her, and so my first proper full-time job was at a media agency working in digital ops, setting up ads on the internet, pretty much, using ad serving technology to put ads online. So I was working in a team environment at an agency. Like, there's a lot of people around you, you have your own patch of clients, you do your thing, you build relationships with vendors and internal teams and stuff like that. And then I always wondered, because we always had tech vendors come in and be the rep, and I was like, I want to be one of those people. So at the time, I didn't know what this vendor was, but it was a market research company. The technology measured whether an ad was served to the right audience. So like, if you've got a budget for nappies, do you want to make sure that your ads are going to mums and parents, or, you know, kids? Like, do you know what I mean? So just making sure that your ad budget isn't wasted. So I was a rep for that for a couple of years. It was just me on the product. I did everything in that role. Not everything, but like from business development, sometimes pitching, onboarding, client servicing, like really pretty well-rounded for just one product. I did that for a bit, and I was like, you know what, I'm working tech. After a while, that role got a bit like uninteresting, but I also felt the company culture just wasn't for me, especially with a lot of people around me in my network just thriving. Like, oh my God, my company's, you know, here's our company offsite. I'm like, what? We couldn't even go out for lunch.
Oh, really? So the company you worked for was like
old school.
Yeah, okay.
Old school, you know, like pretty old school.
Yep.
I was like, you know what, I want that. I'm young. I deserve that. So it took me a while to actually get there, but I found a customer success role at a SaaS company. I applied for it. I applied for a couple of other roles. I was close to getting them, but they were intense. I was like, 24 years old, and I was asked to, you know, put together a pitch presentation. I've never done that before. And then you get panels. You're on a panel and everyone's asking you questions. They grill you. I was like, oh my God, this is intense. Which was really good. Like, I feel like every young person should just put themselves out there, get yourselves in an uncomfortable position, because that's the only way. Like, no matter how much you are shooting it, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen?
You're not going to die. Did you die?
Did you die?
Yeah.
You almost died vomiting and screaming.
Yeah, but did you die? So yeah, that's how I got into tech. I applied, I found a role online, applied for it. The interview process at that time was very straightforward. It was 3 rounds. Now, to get into that company, you'd be looking at 5 rounds.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, with a presentation or a demo, like you're required to do a demo. And yeah, that's kind of where my career... Oh, and then I got let go from that role, by the way. I was made redundant. The tech winter's happening. So over the past couple of months, I was miserable. I was so unhappy. Oh, not unhappy. I was just like, why is this happening to me? I can't believe, like, you know, and in that head, when you're in that headspace, all you can think about is your reality of that. It's like, oh my God, shit, my reality is...
So how did it happen? Like, I'm so curious, because when you hear people... Like, today when we're filming this, we were just talking about it with Carlos. It was like Salesforce laid off like 10% of their workforce.
Yeah.
So when they laid you off, what was the conversation like? Was it like that? What was that? I don't know the name of that guy. He was, remember the one who fired everyone on Zoom?
Oh, yeah.
And he went,
During COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Was it like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was done
Very tastefully?
Really tastefully, and the payout was very generous. But what really got me was the shock, because I thought the company wasn't going to be heading in a direction where they had to cull the stuff, especially in our region. Our region, we're pumping it, killing it, numbers hit every quarter, grow, right? we had a lot to be excited about. The product is evolving. You know, the whole company is just buzzing over the success of the company. What happened was I got a letter just saying to come in the next day and saying that my role was going to change. And that's when I got
Changes in the words used were like change.
So yeah, I think I can't remember the language.
I hear mixed reactions. I was talking to Steve, who you can fly flat. He used to work from Quarry, and he was really looking forward to getting laid off. He wanted that redundancy package.
I did, yeah.
But obviously, in your case, you were like this was a shock to me. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it was like, what was your reaction, and then how did you deal with it afterwards? Like, what's the aftermath and emotionally?
Yeah. So emotionally, I was just crying for a couple of days. Like, you go through waves. Like, it hits you, and then anytime anyone messaged me. Yeah, anyone messaged me, I just burst into tears. And I took a lot of time off for myself, actually. Yeah. The one thing, I know in hindsight, you're like, you should have done this, but this is just the reality. Like, a lot of people said, this is an opportunity for you to go gangbusters and find your passion and do whatever you want. But for me, I just couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And then it'll be 4:00 on a weekday. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do these things at 4:00. I've done nothing. And I just feel really guilty. I'm like, oh my God, Steph.
How productive.
Yeah, not productive. I found it really difficult to start tasks. And I sound like such a brat. This is like where I have this internalized, I guess, conflict with myself. It's like, why do you feel so sorry for yourself, blah, 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 when everyone else doesn't have this opportunity to thrive? And so that's just something that I battled with. I'm in a lot better headspace now. And thankfully, like, the community that we've grown on the platform has been so supportive. Messages from people that I've never met, or like people that I really admire, and that, you know, it's just like really, it's good to have the support. And naturally, like after that, I got invited to a couple events, I got to network, got a couple of brand deals in the pipe, and it's something that kind of got me a bit excited to kind of take this.
So that was like the light at
seriously.
the end of the tunnel. Like you had some like momentum with Lucky Dragon and some stuff happening here that, not distracted, but you were like, oh, okay, cool, I've got something going on here now that I can work towards.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on getting laid off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's backtrack a little bit for people who don't know who you are, I guess, or what you're doing. Do you want to talk about the Instagram page a little bit, and then where it fits onto that timeline after?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So we created this Instagram account just as COVID, the first lockdown happened. My partner and I were living in a tiny apartment in Petersham, and one of our really good friends who we had dinner with every Sunday we had supper. We always had dinner together. They're like, oh, actually, we're going to be moving to this apartment. My dad bought this apartment in Redburn. Do you want to come join us? Lockdown's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen? We're like, oh, maybe, because the Asian in me is like, I would never live with people. I would never. I couldn't. And then, but then, like if it wasn't for COVID, I would never have done it. Like, I would never have lived with anyone else, and it was great. We saved a lot of money. The rent was cheap. Rent was really cheap. And because there was so much uncertainty, we were like, what the hell do we have to lose? These are good friends of ours. We all love to eat. The place is huge.
And you were living at home at the time?
Oh, no, by this time I'd already moved out.
Oh, you guys had your own place?
Yeah, we had our own place. That was the first place we lived in together. And yeah, we started cooking a lot, and then it ended up, all four of us would be taking the same photos of the food, and all our friends were like, we get it, you guys are eating good. So we created an Instagram account just for the food. And at first it was just photos. It took a really long time. First of all, I was like, you know what, I'm going to own this. It's my ownership. Don't touch it. No one take photos. Me. I've been forgiven for it. Sorry, guys. It took me a really long time to do voiceovers, to do videos, and finally showing my face. Like, I was so self-conscious about it, because I feel like that's something I never saw myself doing when I was younger. Like, I had a lot of people in my life being like, oh God, you should go on YouTube. You should. Like, oh no, I'd never. My life is private. I don't want anyone knowing who I am. I want to blah, blah. Now I'm at the same, like, who cares? Like,
Was it called Lucky Dragon at the time?
Oh, it was called something very obnoxious, because you know how
Can you say?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was exactly, but we were like, you know how those Chinese restaurants just have a really long restaurant name, like
Golden Fortune, Sunrise.
Yeah.
Funky or something weird like that, yeah.
It's like Jade _888_.
It's like a pokies machine. Or
Yeah, honestly, and our logo was a pokies machine as well. And then when it came down to, like, you guys should follow the page, like, what's the page? We're like, oh, what is the page? Like, we didn't have it was really hard to regurgitate. So I think we liked the concept of a supper club, but maybe something that had a bit of Asian twist to it because we cook a lot of Asian food at home, Asian fusion, Chinese cooking, and then occasionally a lot of, at the time, Ottolenghi, we draw a lot of inspiration from his creativity into cooking it. Everyone knows who Ottolenghi is, right? Yeah. I feel like everyone has a simple cookbook at home.
For people who don't know.
Ottolenghi is bad bitch. Simple Mediterranean, Middle Eastern style cooking. And for me, actually, because growing up, I never ate that type of food before. So, like, I feel like that really opened my eyes into the way you play with ingredients, textures, produce, seasonality. I feel like, you know, that taught a lot. Not just through one book. There's a couple of other things as well. But yeah, our friends actually introduced us to that back in the day, and yeah, fucking love it. Sorry.
Yeah, so like with your recipes though, were they a lot of like your family's recipes that you kind of modified, or how did you get started?
Some of them are like the home style dishes, like noodles, fish, anything that you put on the table for Lunar New Year, dumplings. Like those are recipes I asked my mum for with advice. With Chinese recipes that belong to the family, no one's written it down and no one's really measuring anything. You just measure with your heart, right? So I feel like as a person, you could never really replicate what the previous generation has done, but it's just a matter of the art of expression and interpretation, and then putting it on the table to see what other people think as well, and then sharing that with everyone else. A lot of the food that I cook actually draws from food that I really enjoy at restaurants. So if I try something that I really like, I'm like, oh my God, how do I recreate that at home? Or
I see a lot of your dishes, and I think this is just my personal experience. When I see the, not just the way you cook it, but the way it's like presented, it is very restaurant. Like I would say it's restaurant quality, presentation, right? Yeah. And more so probably in my opinion, being someone in Sydney, is like I see a lot of inspiration from like places like Maribel restaurants. Yeah. You know, like the concept and design, where it's not like overly refined, it's still got that casual sort of homey vibe to it. Yeah. And it's like super nice.
I think what's really important is a lot of people, when it comes to cooking, people get really intimidated by ingredients that are not familiar to them. So like sourcing ingredients can be one thing. People will steer away from a recipe completely because they don't have access to Shaoxing wine, for example. It's like, okay, how? In my world, I'm like, how do you not got Shaoxing wine? But then I'm like, hang on, there's a whole damn population out there that have access to an Asian grocery store. It's less about like sticking to the recipe, but kind of modifying what you have, tasting as you go, and just empowering people to be better home chefs. How to be like, have a bit more self-belief in yourself. Here's what you need to look out for when you are making something. Here's why I stir fry like this at home, because I don't have a kitchen like they do in the restaurants. This is why we employ these techniques at home, to kind of give you a better result. Haven't done a video on wok hei yet because I feel like there's a lot of videos on wok hei, but like wok hei is hard to achieve at home.
Really hard.
Especially if you have electric, like good luck. So yeah, I think the content that I pump out and the recipes I pump out are designed to be fun, educational, and great. Great being unique, or something that's like that captivates you. Like, oh my God, I want to eat that. Actually, I made halwa the other day, and it melted at the end. I'm like, who would want it? It was like purple, and there was like red jellies, and it just like, I was like, oh, this is so appetizing. I can understand why someone looking at that would be like, ew. But to us, we're like, oh my God, this is the best bits of the soup. Yeah, it was yum. But yeah, I think I think this year I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on not old school, but like home style Chinese cooking. That's because it's very familiar, right? There's a lot of stuff that I still get to learn, like all the medicinal soups my mum puts on the table. I have no idea how to make any of that. I know what the ingredients are, why the ingredients are used, because you know, but yeah, why they're used, because you know there's cooling elements. Some ingredients have to be prepared a certain way, but I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like that's maybe something I'd like to.
So where do you start? Like for example, you say people get intimidated, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when you want to learn something like cooking, particularly like putting specific dishes together and stuff that's like really undocumented, like Chinese food, where did you, for example, up until this point, learn everything? Like outside of talking to your mum, I mean, that's one element, but there's a lot of people who talk to their mum but don't end up like cooking like you do. So then have you thought about how you actually got so good at cooking?
I just cook a lot.
It's weird, like there is a gene, like people when they're geniuses at things, they like, I don't even know.
I don't even think I'm an amazing cook. I'm just someone who loves to cook and someone I think, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think I have a developed palate in this cuisine, so I know what to look out for. So that's why I tell people to try their food when you're cooking it, because you know, if you know what it's supposed to taste like, you could kind of reverse engineer it and see what you need to add, what techniques you need to employ to kind of achieve the same results.
When you were younger, were your parents encouraging you into the kitchen? So like, for example, my younger brother, like he cooks very well, but that's because my parents have like forced all of us to be in the kitchen when we were younger so that we could survive and cook for ourselves.
Oh, interesting.
So he's learned a lot because he's had his sisters and like our parents allow him to do that and also guide him to do that. But was your experience like that?
This is so interesting because my mum and my dad, their parenting styles, they had distinct parenting, I guess, wishes on me. So my mum wanted me to study. Don't just study, just do well, please. Don't, because you know we've got cousins that I needed to compete with, and not cousins, family friends. Did you know that Johnny got an A+? Like, oh shit, okay, I'm not getting that. And then my dad was like, chill out, go outside, go look at the bird out there. Wow. I really love that. My dad taught me to be really observant, to be present, to be practical. Practical. So I feel like I had a really diverse lens on a couple things. But when it came down to cooking, I think one way to get my dad out of my bedroom when I was in my teenage years was just to help him in the kitchen. So like, hey Steph, I bought a squid. And then he'd show me. He'd buy a whole squid and he's like, come on, get out. We're gonna clean it. He'd show me the anatomy of the squid, the mouth, the beak, just peeling off the skin. I'd help him chop onions, and then I'd go back to my room and buy. Yeah, but then over time that becomes something that I just, you know, whenever we had family around, it was something that I liked to be present and just be helpful, and something that I started that that let me cook on my own was actually, let me, the first thing that I made was actually my dad's German or Austrian style crepes. He used to make them every Sunday. They're a crepe that's very thin, they're very big, and you can eat like 4 of them. You have them with cinnamon sugar or you have them with Nutella in my use case. And I remember the first time I made it, I was like 7, I think. It was Father's Day. I didn't know how to crack eggs, put the eggs in. I knew what the consistency had to look.
Bits of shell.
My parents were like, wow, this is great. That's like the first thing I cooked, but then it wasn't until I was older that I really got into baking. I feel like everyone goes through a baking phase. My parents aren't sweet teeth people, so like I'd make a cake and they're like, it's just sitting there because no one's, or maybe the cake was just awful, I don't know. And every time there was a bake sale, I'd always, nominate myself to make something. I can't remember, like, how did I get into...
Well, I was going to say, Carlos, because you would probably see it from a...
Yeah, so I think from my lens it was actually like moving out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true.
Because it's sort of, okay, we're big people now. We need to be independent.
Yeah.
And I think for us, food was always our love language. So naturally, we're passionate about food and we want to try everything. We want to try and learn how to make things. We'd do heaps of projects. We'd set out ourselves like, we glazed a ham for Christmas.
Oh yeah, we're really proud of that.
Let's use that bone to make tonkatsu broth.
Oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah,
I should do a video on that. Oh my god, I've got ham bone.
we got a ham bone.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, we made a tonkatsu broth with ham bone. We also made the char siu, the crispy. Wow. But it was crispy. It was like mega fusion. Like purists look away. Like it was yum. When I moved out of home, I think I had no choice. And actually, one of the biggest inspirations back in the day was old school Marian's Kitchen.
Ooh.
Marian's Kitchen is an OG. She really mastered how to simplify stir-frying techniques.
Is she the MasterChef contestant?
Yeah.
Oh,
she
the glasses
lives,
and the red
in
lipstick?
Bangkok. Yeah, her mum was always like giving shit to her father, son-in-law. I love it.
She's got like a whole line of stuff in Woolies or Coles or something now.
Yeah.
She's smashing it. She's doing so well. She's big on YouTube actually. Like
that's how I just watched her video. Like she went back to Bangkok.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah. I think so watching a lot of her videos, I learnt a lot. And then
so all you do, it sounds like all you do is like you go, yep, cool, I've got this ingredient or this thing I want to make, learn it, try it, and then you just go down the rabbit hole and just keep going.
Yeah.
So the curiosity, I feel like.
More the curiosity for sure. And as you know what, like I used to be one of those people that would just get rid of things. If something was going off in the fridge, I would just get rid of it. But now I've employed more of a mindset to just be a little bit more sustainable. Food, I hate food waste now. I save everything. I would also blame that on our old housemate Tim. He would save just a bit of gravy at the end of the at the roast.
Little KFC tub.
No, honestly, we would have a full-on roast, and Tim would save all the juices. It'd be like 2 tablespoons of juices. He's like, no, I'm gonna make something with that, and he does, and it's hectic. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so creative, and you wouldn't be able to recreate anything like that. So, but that's the stuff I don't really post that stuff online, but I try to employ that type of mentality just to kind of reuse or like save up and not waste anything and create something from that.
And then I guess like also going back to the timeline of leaving tech and then also getting into focusing more on the Instagram page, like where did that happen? And how did you start spending more time on it and growing it?
You know what? I kind of neglected this page right after I got let go. It was something that distracted me, but I really wanted to do it properly. I think right now I'm in a really good headspace, and I know where I'd like the page to go. I know I've got some goals set out for myself, like some OKRs. Like I'm a big girl now. I've got OKRs for the page. I really would love to work with other creators. I feel like sometimes a lot of creators might just stay in their lane and not really branch out, but really I feel like you're opening a dialogue with other creators, you're sharing, you're networking, and creating a really positive space for our culture, you know, like sharing techniques, and also like we see a lot of videos out there that kind of bastardize the cuisine sometimes. Like, okay, it's not an opportunity to punish someone, but like educate or celebrate, you know?
I feel like there's purists and there's like elitists with this sort of stuff, and it's like everyone's interpretation. Like literally that book on the coffee table, Chinese-ish, which was something that we noticed because they like wrote a book, and I was like, all these recipes in here were these like bastardized versions of Chinese food.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like, who are the elitists and the purists to say like this is the sort of right original version versus you know what sort of changed over time?
There's this topic called authenticity that a lot of creators started talking about. It's like authenticity is overrated because what's authentic now wasn't authentic 20 years ago, 50 years ago. So where do you draw the line in terms of what's authentic? I think personally it should be authentic to you and your memory of that food. Like your memory of that food. And also what's available to you at the time, like you in an environment where you have access to the ingredients. Can you substitute an ingredient for something else that's local to you, that's in season, you know, because that's also really important. Also pay respect to the culture as well. Like I think those things are really important in a formula to recreate a dish. But yeah, with authenticity, I have that in the back of my mind because I feel like it's not supposed to be like that, you know, you make it properly. But then it's like, oh, this is my take on it, you know, like this is how I like to prepare it. I know that it was like this. I acknowledge it.
But at least you know.
Yeah, as long as you know.
I was going to say, do you ever watch like Uncle Roger and be like, maybe I'll end up on that?
Someone, not to me, but I wouldn't like to be Uncle Roger, I don't think. I don't know.
I think there's a difference between, how do I explain it? Like, people who are on...
They're completely fucking it up.
Yeah, like they completely...
Oh, they're completely,
They fully don't actually understand the foundations behind it, whereas like, if you're making food or if we're making food...
Like the technique's there, the flavour combinations are right, but maybe it's
you just
the
adjust it a little
fusion
bit,
version
you know?
of it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Uncle Roger's just like, whoever he's critiquing...
Before you even talk, Uncle Roger's talking.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, his button is undone. He's a messy man. Oh, put it in me. You know what I mean? Before you even open your mouth, he's already giving you shit.
Yeah.
You're like, oh damn, I already lost.
Have you shared your food with your parents, and what do they think about it?
They love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh my god.
Is your mom proud?
Yeah.
Or she's like nitpicking? She's like, nah, this is not authentic.
Oh, you know what? She'd see some of one time I made, okay, so you know with Chinese cooking, right? Garnishes are limited because you need to see what's underneath. Like, see how you've got just the mint on the you know it's chicken. It's not covered in shit. It's not covered in like aromatics and watercress and stuff. Like I used to go ham on the toppings, on the garnishes, and she'd be like, what are you doing? Like, that's too much green. So like sometimes she'd be like, she'd call me up. I got a burp, by the way. Hang on. My bad. It's like coming up. Yeah, and then my parents would be like, wow, I can't believe you put on you put on like a spread. You know, when I was younger, I don't think my mum, because I didn't do great at school. I didn't get I wasn't a high HSC achiever like everyone else was. I went to tutoring though, and Mum was like, "Damn it, you still didn't do well." I went to Matrix, and everyone was a party for me. I was like, "Hey, we're making friends with everyone." And so like now that she sees some output that isn't like in her textbook, like, you know, being an engineer or an accountant or a lawyer, she's actually really practical, and she can look after herself. Like there's a lot of people between the ages of, you know, like 25 and 30 who are still kind of getting their lives together. And I'm not trying to say I'm like top shit or anything, but there's like some skills that might be not taught at home, or and then life skills. Yeah. So then as a result, you're kind of like figuring it out. So she's like, I didn't teach you any of this shit.
Yeah, because like, and as someone who's like, you know, we're the same age, so like, you know, early 30s.
Yeah.
I feel like I grew up with, I don't know if it's just by happenstance, but like group of friends who mainly, none of them cook. I don't think, there's like maybe one. I don't think I've had anyone host dinner parties.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't know about you guys, like my group of friends, at least what I've grown up with, has always been about going out to eat.
Yeah.
Like it's always been restaurants and that sort of stuff. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, it's just, I mean, you spend like your 20s, your early 20s probably out partying and going out to eat and getting shit-faced.
Yeah.
You move into your late 20s and then you're just trying to figure out careers, and then food's not a priority. Now you go into early 30s and it's like one of those things that you were talking about, like, oh, you're doing dinner parties with friends. And like, I'm like, oh, like I actually wish I had like a group of friends who would do this sort of stuff, because they don't.
Yeah.
Like the closest thing that comes to it is like potluck. Everyone just brings a dish.
That's
versus,
good.
yeah, which is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But like, not saying that this is like the North Star or anything like that, but it's like there is something about what our parents did. Like I feel like it is some childhood thing where my parents used to either go to a friend's place or family's place, or they would come to ours, and the person hosting would cook the entire spread.
I used to have that mindset.
Yeah.
And then our old housemate's like, what the hell do you need? I'm like, nah, I can do everything. That's my toxic traits. Like, you know,
trauma traits.
Yeah, like toxic traits, like slaving around the kitchen, not asking for help, but really you're dying.
I'm so used to being like, maybe it's different for me because all of my friends, we all love to cook together, or we do dinner parties as well, and everyone brings a dish, or whoever is hosting will cook the whole dinner, and everyone brings like drinks or like desserts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's our group of friends, like wholesome activity to do together.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of always look forward to.
Yeah. So I didn't have that. I think it was very different. Where it was like, and I grew up with a lot of Koreans, so we would go to Korean restaurants. We'd order one egg. And then like 50 bottles of sausage. Like, you know. And so it was food was secondary in a lot of my social circles. Even though I hung around with all Asians, there was not as much emphasis placed on food, and a lot of the importance or the value of food was assigned on cost. Like it wasn't even, it was very old school. It was like they would be like, oh, we wouldn't go to like fancy places. And it wasn't like, it was until like Iris and I, who we love food as well, we would actually be happy to both spend the money, put in the time and effort, that sort of stuff. But certainly not from a social perspective that I had that.
That's a great experience, because you all talk about the food, and like you don't have to talk about the food, but like it's also, for me, like personally, I find cooking my best friend is the complete opposite. She's like, I hate cooking. But it's very relaxing for me. I love
meditative.
It's meditative, and it's for me the only time I can really feel like I'm in full control of the outcome that what's happening, right? Because it's your intentions of this is your thing. You are creating this. What could go wrong? You know what's going to go wrong, right? And that process for me is very cathartic, very relaxing. I don't like cleaning up though. Like cleaning up.
Speaking of Carlos, like, do people know that Carlos is behind the scenes a lot of the time?
Carlos is hidden. He's
The
in the
people we negotiate with.
he's in the he's in our signature.
He's the manager, the agent.
Do you want to talk about your experience and also your perspective of how everything has grown as well?
Yeah, for me, going back to Why Lucky Dragon, I think we had a good reflective moment. We went down south like a few days ago, and we're like, okay, so what is our why, and why do we do this? And it's a lot of it is sort of, how do you enable people to go from, oh, I'm so off-put by this, cooking is difficult, when you spend a bit of time and you learn the fundamentals, you learn the flavour profiles, and then it just starts to come naturally for you. And I think that's what, like I've seen for us, you and I, Steph, how we've grown in our relationship. It's sort of, food was always at the centre, but it's almost like you kind of graduated every year, and suddenly you're coming up with these new combinations, and suddenly once you've got the tools to learn how to cook, you're coming up with these awesome flavor profiles, and you're wowing your friends, and you're teaching your friends and family.
Yeah.
And yeah, just watching that grow, and this sort of lucky dragon and what it's all about grow along with that has been it's sort of bringing in your personal experience with what you're trying to achieve and what you want others to kind of to achieve. And our key question now is sort of, how do we enable that for others?
I think one really, I think something that I don't do enough is simplifying the foods. So like the content I post is like, here's how to chop an onion. Like that's something that I like, because some people really like, I don't know.
It's a chore for a lot of people.
So like, maybe like something that I should incorporate into the content is just maybe taking a couple steps back before you get into the...
You mean like the fundamentals?
The fundamentals.
Yeah, okay.
Because I have this other mindset, like my other mindset is, it doesn't have to be something bougie and fancy and too laborious, because the last thing you want to do when you're in the kitchen, when you have friends around, is be in the kitchen. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be there and entertain your friends, be present, do as much prep as you can in advance. Here's what you got to do in advance. A lot of the dishes I pump out are like, here's half of it done in the morning. There's a lot of things you can do in advance. There's a lot of things you can just buy off of the bat and just zhuzh it up, like a soft cheese, or like you can put it on the table, but you can really make it look a bit more fancy. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, but you can be creative. You can, put honey or raisins or bake it, experiment. I find actually one of the most impressive things you can put on the table is just get some sashimi and some oysters. Or get someone else to bring it. Like, someone's like, can I bring anything? It's like, yes, can you please?
Just upgrade the table.
Yeah, right, upgrade the table. It's the first thing you eat. It's like, wow. I really love making tostadas with wonton wrappers. I make like
just fry them?
Yeah. I learned you can just spray them and put them in the oven.
Oh, okay.
And they puff up a bit, and it's like less oily, and I think I'm going to do that next time. The other thing you can use is like rice paper. You can puff up some rice paper, and that can be your vessel for whatever you want. And I love, and when I go out to eat at restaurants, those are the things I look forward to the most, the snacks. They're so fun. And then normally for the main course, it's just something that cooks itself by. You don't cook, it's just braising, chuck it in the oven, put it out the plonk, everyone help themselves, And then what you can delegate, the dessert. Delegating is very important, something that I let go of. Was like, you can't do everything. You can't. Stop saying no, you can't do everything. Stop trying to do everything. Delegate. There are people there that can help you. If someone's useless, just get them to bring the booze. Get them to bring, if you know they're going to bring the shit booze, tell them to bring this booze and this booze.
I'm that guy. That's me. That's me in the group.
So like some people are like, I'm going to bring the wine. The wine is like from the barrel. Like,
That's a goon bag.
Like, thank you so much. Like, I think, it's helpful just to be like, okay, bring this and this. All right.
Well, I was just going to say, because I really want to ask as well on the topic of going back to sort of childhood, doing a lot of travel, because your dad worked for Qantas. You were saying like you go back to China almost every year, like it was very frequent. Yeah. So as someone who was mixed race, going back to China, how were you treated? What was your experience like in China?
Yeah, good question. I didn't recognise, growing up in Australia, I didn't think I was I didn't stand out until I went to China. As a kid, I loved going to China because it was like, shopping, toys, food, all this attention, look at me, I'm so cute. And then when I became like a little bit more self-aware, and I was, finding my typical adolescent like grubbiness, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting stared at. I'm getting stared at on the train.
And no break of you make eye contact and it continues.
It continues and staring. I had someone pointing at my hairy arms once and calling me like, oh wow,
holy shit,
you're hairy. It's like, yeah, okay. Also, I used to visit a lot in February. So February's end of summer here in Australia. I go there looking crispy, looking good. They're looking crispy, looking dark. My hair naturally is wavy as well, so that looks just messy. I just look like a walking, not the complete opposite of the Chinese beauty standard, right? I knew the Chinese beauty standard is really, unfortunately, really unhealthy, really unrealistic for a lot of people. And so naturally, people be like, oh wow, you got a big nose. Oh, you got big legs. Oh wow, you put on weight. Oh.
There's no beating around the bush.
No beating around the bush. And
is this family as well, though?
No, family would say it in a really endearing way. It's like, it's like, yeah, all right. But like I remember finding shoes or finding clothes, it just be like, oh, you're big. Oh, you're big. I'm big. I've never known, everyone has told me, I never felt that in my life that I was anything but healthy with a healthy structure, body structure. And then like it wasn't, thankfully I wasn't fragile. Like you could imagine if I was someone who was really mental health problems and there's, you know, someone's just, you don't know, is just giving you shit for what you look like. But I still, whenever we did go to China though, it was always during Lunar New Year and we'd always arrive just as everyone was leaving. So you know how the city just empties itself. So the city was empty and shopping was great. Shopping was amazing. And you know, like there's a Lunar New Year tradition where you have to wear your new clothes on the first day because you know, new energy, new beach energy. I used to go shopping. I used to go all ham out. I used to buy everything. I felt like $1 million. That was like something I really look forward to. And the food, reunion of the family. You know, something that my family never understood actually was the concept of allergies. So anytime I sneezed, I had allergies. So anytime I sneezed, I'd just get a blanket thrown on me, like, oh, you're cold. Your neck is hanging out, you're cold. I'm like, oh, that's dusty, get that away from me. Like, they just didn't get it. That's something that I really got frustrated over actually, but it's fine. Like, yeah, that was something else that annoyed me a bit. I was really lucky to be able to go back to China each year and see my family and just see how life is like over there. Every time I've gone, actually, it's just gotten more advanced. Like it's so much developed.
Oh, you see a lot of change.
A lot of change.
Yeah,
like you were talking about how today you don't have to queue up at a restaurant.
Yes.
You can just literally boop and then go live your life and then they'll be like your table's ready.
Yeah, like here we're still like writing our names down
and
on like a clipboard and a phone number and you rip a little number off
and you're standing
and if you lose it, you're fucked.
Yeah, and they yell at you as well. Like they don't ask.
Yeah. Oh, so backwards here.
Yeah, I know, we've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really would like to go back to China. I know that they've opened up now. It's a bit chaotic right now though.
But like on your dad's side,
you
said your dad fled obviously communism over there, so he hasn't gone back. You've never like sort of travelled and not. Well, how much do you know about your dad's side? And
not too much actually. Like I know my dad worked really hard here. My dad really got me into the complete opposite of my mum. My mum got me into piano lessons on Friday nights at 6 o'clock. My dad hated it because it would just set the tone for the rest of the day. Like piano lessons, she was my piano teacher. Didn't speak much English, and she had one of those big pencils, and she hit me on the knuckles. She'd hit me on the knuckles if I played something wrong, and then you know she'd give my mum feedback. My mum would give me shit, and then I'd be like. And my dad like, what are you doing? You know, you're wasting this kid's, wasting free time, childhood.
Yeah.
My dad got me into sports actually. Like, I played a lot of sport at school, and he's the one that kind of got me becoming really practical in the house. But my dad actually has adopted a lot of the stereotypical Shanghainese man responsibilities. Like
domestic.
He's quite domestic. He's put on a Lunar New Year spread on his own before. There was one time he put everything on the table. He watches WeChat videos in Chinese and sends them to me on WeChat being like, you should make these. Like he's a fool. He loves it. He's gone back to China to visit my family without my mum.
Wow.
Yeah. Just talking in Google Translate. And he's just happy to be there, you know? Like
do they still call him Lao Wei?
They call it yeah.
Guilo?
Yeah. He calls himself Guilo. He's like, hello, Guilo's here. He also gets the shits because, you know, he's been married to my mum for 30 years and it's like, Chinese is so hard to learn. It's such I've married her for so long. How come I can't speak it? I say nei hao and you don't understand me. It's like, everyone look at me like I'm like, yeah, because you're not saying it properly. Why do you get it? It's a difficult language, but he gets by. He knows all the he knows like shower, noodles, hello.
He's really proactive.
Super proactive. Yeah. He helps himself with the old school shopping trolley, like with all the grandma. He's doing the rounds, doing his shopping in Cabramatta sometimes. He just goes, he's cute.
All the Asian aunties she's like, oh, who is this man?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your dad's like, okay, wow, I don't, because like there's like, you know when you get to a certain age, they become quite closed-minded about things.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's quite
actually, before my dad met my mum, I don't think he touched any seafood at all, like prawns or squid.
No, he loves it.
Now it's like he gets bloody salt and pepper squid anytime I go out. It's like, I love that. I think that's one of the first things he tried with my mum. Yeah, and his palate is now very diverse. He cooks a lot of Asian food at home, but also he has the odd tub of yogurt for dinner, like a whole tub of yogurt.
His inner European comes out.
Yeah, he's gonna get a whole tub of yogurt, 2 slices of bread, and cheese. And that's sometimes what I would eat. I'd be like, yeah, thick lunch, and Carlos is like, what is this? I'm like, it's good. It's so good. Yeah, I've been really fortunate to have had access to 2 types of cultures, because I feel like I know how to navigate certain spaces in a certain way. So like, it sounds like I'm turning on and off. It's like, I don't like saying it like this. It might come across as negative, but like, if I'm hanging around a group of people and I might not want to come off as the foreigner. I just know how
you blend in.
You blend in. Yeah. Whereas, having that exposure kind of enriches who I am and how I navigate spaces.
It's also a necessary skill.
It's like a survival mechanism, right?
Like, you have to learn how to do that, otherwise you don't, get by that easy.
Yeah.
Like, in a social situation.
Yeah.
Well, then, if anyone's looking to do something similar to you, or they're stuck in a loop in a career that they don't really want to be in and they want to jump around, like, what kind of advice would you like to give people who are listening?
I really liked that episode that you did, Barry.
Whatever Barry said.
No, Barry's like, you're gonna die. What do you? It's like, oh.
That is true.
Yeah, true. I'm not going to use his words, but I feel like it took me a really long time to come out of my shell and to do this. But for me, it was baby steps, and I didn't go balls deep into this straight away. But if you are thinking about pivoting your career or pivoting anything in your life, just think about where your life would be if you continued on the path that you were today. And in 10 years' time, you'd look back on yourself and be like, I'm an idiot. Not an idiot, but like, you don't want to be in a position where you're like, shit, I had the chance to really kill it or to really try something new and I blew it. Yeah. Or I was scared, or I was...
Like, you regret the stuff you didn't do as opposed to the stuff you did do.
And I get like so there are risks involved too. Like, say that you want to move across to the other world, you're risking relationships with your family and friends at home. But what is it that's more important? Like, it's just short term. If it doesn't work out, what's going to happen? What's your backup plan? Kind of just putting those pieces into place and then putting together a plan on how you'd get there. For me, I've only just started putting it together a plan now. But I'm really glad I got the push just to do it. Just go. Just do it. Yeah.
And I think things happen for a reason. Like, I feel like sometimes if you see it as, I got laid off, and you can see it as a really bad thing. But on the flip side, you can now see it as, hey, this is now an opportunity for me to do something else that you normally wouldn't. We talk about it all the time, which is even starting like Social Wave, our agency, like Noel and I were like basically freelancing and doing our own thing. And it was like literally because of the pandemic and because I couldn't travel anymore. Otherwise I'd still be in Bali somewhere. That we started up Social Wave, and if not for Social Wave, then we wouldn't have Level Asian. And so like there's a butterfly effect with everything that you do. And you, at the end of the day, I think we have a lot less control than we think. And like what Barry says, like at the end of the day, you're just gonna die.
So you may as well. Like, there was a time last year where maybe peak lockdown, I was like, shit, nothing matters. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like it. It was like peak happiness seeking, but that's fine. But then if there's something that you really want to do and you're going to just park it to fulfill a short-term happiness route, would you continue just to be ignorant? And not ignorant, but like just happy-go-lucky? Or you're in a unique position right now to just pursue it. Do it. Just do it. Babes, if you're thinking about going to Europe solo, go. Okay?
It's on the record.
Go. If you're thinking about starting your own business, do it. Think about it. Put together a plan, do it. If you're thinking about changing careers, think about why you are think about why you're asking yourself this question, and then I think that would really help you solidify what your next step is, because clearly you're curious, clearly you are either unhappy or curious or other of those things, and who knows? Goodness, like, life's too short. Like, just do it. Just do it.
I was thinking the other day, I was like, how come like our parents used to like do career jobs? Like, they work same job from the start right through to like they retire, and I think it was because like opportunity was very different back then. So I think we have a very unique opportunity now to go pursue things, and then when things don't work out, you just have the option of going back. Whereas I don't think even our parents had that opportunity. Like, it's like You take this gamble,
Yeah.
that door shuts behind you, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, I think that door stays open most of the time and you can always come back to it as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us have that mentality of maybe how our parents think. It could be just because of the way we're being taught or just the way things are. But I think it's not as risky as people think.
Yeah.
But it has to be calculated risk.
Yeah.
Calculate, of course.
Yeah. You can't just go
Bye.
balls deep into
Well,
it.
that's what my mum
Well, you
was like.
can if you really want to.
Yeah.
You're ballsy.
Yeah, well,
That's
they have no
usually-
choice. Then
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the exception to the rule, right?
Yeah.
When things pull off. But a lot of the time you don't hear like a lot of failures
Yeah.
when people do this.
Well,
So-
with this whole gig, at first my mum was skeptical about starting this page, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I get it. You're cooking, posting videos. Who's watching those videos? Can you see who's watching those videos? Okay."
So the mom doubt,
Yeah.
if it passes the mom doubt thing, you're like, no, I should still do
I can
this.
still do it. And then I got my first big time proper collaboration, and I told her how much money I made, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, how do you do it? How can you get it again? What can you do?" I'm like, "Well, I need to grow the page and build an audience." "Oh, how do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, I've got to continue posting videos." "Oh, okay, yeah, all right. So, what are you making next?" Like, she's like, generally like,
Let me help you.
Let me help you. So, like, there was a spread that I did at my parents' place in their backyard. They have a nice courtyard, and Carlos and I set up a tablescape. Tablescape is work, especially when it's for a shoot. And she came home in the afternoon. She was like, "Are you still here?" I'm like, "Wow, it's been hours of work." I'm like, "Yeah,
It's not that easy.
the sun's moving." She's like, "Oh, great." So now I had a conversation with her about. She says, as long as it's bringing you happiness and you can still continue to be creative and you're getting value out of it, I 100% support you. But right now, Steph, you don't have a job, so like, can you just please think about getting a job? Like, just think about the stability part, please. Please prioritize that, and then see what happens. I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
You're like, no, Carlos has got this.
And he's my account, he's a business development representative. Thank you. But yeah, I'm really liking my parents. Because some people are like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Not supportive.
not supportive. Yeah. And also all my best friends' parents follow the page too.
Oh, that's
like, it's
sweet.
sweet. They were rooting for me. Like, "Oh my god, this looks young." I'm like, "Hi, Gina."
They're all kind of like vicariously living through you.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh my god, she's doing it." Like,
Yeah.
it's something I would have wanted to do. So.
Yeah, everyone's been really great.
Cute. I guess where can people find more about you online?
Okay, look up Lucky Dragon Supper Club. Lucky Dragon Supper
Not
Club.
J888.
Oh yeah. Or sometimes someone's like Lucky Dragon Club or it's Lucky Dragon Supper Club. Yeah. Oh wait, sorry. On Instagram and TikTok, and very soon this year on YouTube Shorts, because she wants to tap into that platform.
And also the website.
And luckydragon.com. LuckyDragonSupperClub.com. That's not ready yet. Don't go there. Don't spam the page. Don't block my IP. Thank you. And yeah, hopefully see you guys engaging with my content, checking it out. I'm very active on the socials, so if you want to speak to me in capital letters, I'll speak back to you in capital letters. Like, it's about that vibe, right?
We love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming onto the podcast today and letting us into your home and cooking a delicious meal.
I did two things. You did like most of it. You arranged it. Full credit to Level Agent. Full credit.
Yeah.
Happy Lunar New Year.
새해 복 많이 받으세요.
恭喜发财.
恭喜發財，新年快樂，身體健康，wait, there's more.
Thanks for listening to the Level Asian podcast. Make sure you subscribe and leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed the episode. And why not share it with friends and family who might enjoy it too? Also, make sure you head over to levelasianpodcast.com to join our email list and to receive the latest updates and get notified when the next episode drops. If you know a great guest we should feature, email us at contact@levelasianpodcast.com or DM us on our socials in the show notes. Catch you on the next episode.